Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Lindsay Dyer, and this is the LDA podcast, where we bring you real conversations with the people shaping the future of business aviation. At LDA, we work alongside flight departments and operators as an extension of their team, supporting scheduling, dispatch, and international trip planning so that they can operate more efficiently and focus on what matters most. This podcast is really an extension of that, sharing insights, experiences, and lessons learned from across the industry. Today's episode is a great one, especially for anyone interested in aviation entrepreneurship, flight training, or what it really takes to build and scale something from the ground up in this industry. I'm joined by Jack Parrish, president and founder of Parrish Aviation Flight Academy. Jack launched the school in 2020 alongside his brother with just one airplane, originally to create a flight instructor opportunity for himself. And what started as a simple solution to meet an immediate need has really grown into a rapidly expanding operation. So today, Parrish Aviation has earned its Part 141 certification, and it's expanding its fleet with new aircraft. It's also actively planning for some additional locations. But what makes Jack's story so interesting isn't just the growth, but it's really how the growth has been intentional. And this conversation is going to go beyond flight training. We're going to dive into what it looks like to go from pilot to entrepreneur, how to scale in the right way in aviation because our industry is very unique, and the realities behind certification, fleet decisions, and how to build a business that's truly centered around serving others. So if you're a flight department leader, an aviation entrepreneur, or someone thinking about building something of your own in this space, there's a lot to take away from this conversation. Jack, welcome to the podcast. I'm really glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Great. Okay, so I want to kind of start off with just in the beginning, how did you even get into aviation? Like, have you always loved it, or is it later in life?
Yeah, I had a pretty unique childhood. So my grandfather is the commander of the Thunderbirds in 1973 and 74. So I grew up flying with him as a kid, and driving to the airport in a car with my learner's permit, and then also going and learning how to fly in his Aranca Champion and Stearman biplane. So
Wow.
my experience, I know not the most common with that. I had a very, very fortunate childhood learning to fly. So yeah, since very early on. And then after I was 19, decided that I wanted to do it professionally. But up until then, it was just for fun, spending time with my grandpa growing up. So.
Oh my gosh. Did you have a favorite of one of those two airplanes that he flew?
Definitely the Stearman. I didn't get to fly it as much because my grandfather lost his medical at a certain point. So me not being a pilot, I couldn't fly with him anymore. But the Champ, I would say we have the most special memories. I just remember sitting in the front seat with him behind me, doing laps and laps in the pattern, and it was really really special time growing up with him and getting to have those experiences together.
That is so cool. What a great airplane.
Hmm.
Okay, so then kind of talk me through, as I mentioned before, you were going to just try and create a flight instructor position for yourself, which is, if I'm not mistaken, common on the pilot route because it could save you a lot of money by purchasing your own airplane, and that way you don't have to pay all the rental fees. So tell me about how that started.
Yeah, and actually, slight modification there. It was mainly for my brother. I was at Envoy at the time, and so I was doing some instructing because I was on reserve all the time and was able to be home a lot. But my brother is 4 years younger than me, and so it's like I'll do the business side. I'm going to be in hotels and whatnot, anyways, and you do the majority of the instructing. And so yeah, that was the initial plan. Just side project, helping him out, and had absolutely no intention of starting a flight school. Not a business that I think a lot of people dream about necessarily getting into to try and make money or anything like that. So yeah, it was accidental, kind of falling into it, and over time, just my brother wasn't super passionate about the business, but really loved the airline life, and I really enjoyed the business side of it. So we ended up switching places, and now he's at American, and I no longer fly for the airlines.
Oh, funny. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. What a cool story, though. Okay, so you're helping out your little brother,
Mhm.
and you said this was what year? Right around what year is this now?
This was 2022 because I started flying for Envoy in 2019, and
Okay.
then 2022, I made sure to get at least 1,000 hours of turbine time just in case I ever wanted to go back. And so I resigned in 2022 with just about 1,000 hours of turbine time right on the dot. And so 3 years after being there, 2 years into the company, and we had I think around 4 or 5 airplanes at the time had just kind of gotten going with in-house maintenance, and it was starting to build some momentum, and we had gotten Maritized at the time as well, which was the primary lender in the industry. So we were really building some steam with the career program at the
Okay.
time when that happened.
I want to hear more about that as well. Any of those very beginning decisions that you thought or that you made that might have changed the trajectory of this whole pathway? What did have the biggest impact?
Well, I mean, getting student lending early on, I know that's a big challenge for a lot of flight schools right now is getting student lending. There's
Mhm.
new lenders entering the market as we speak. I know Edley just made a huge announcement that they're partnering with schools, and of course, Sally Mae's opened the door for more schools recently. So that's a huge challenge for any flight school, right? To provide a product that costs $100,000. Most people can't just pay for that, even though it's a good return on their investment. Most people just can't afford that unless there's some kind of financing option. So we got Maritized, like we were one of the early schools actually with Maritized. Looking back, I don't know why they worked with us. We didn't have much history for our company. We didn't have much to provide them for due diligence or anything. And I mean, it turned out to be, I think, a good decision for them, and we did quite a bit of business with them. But that really helped us grow and scale our career program and our enrollment. Without that, I think the growth would have been a lot slower. So yeah, that was helpful. And then I guess on the other side of that, something that I would have done earlier. I mean,
Hmm.
we really tried, but the 141 certification that took years and years to do. COVID did not help with that, but that's something I probably would have pushed for a little bit harder. And I was actually offered at the time. I thought it was a bad deal, but I was offered to buy a 141 school certificate for like $40,000. And at the time, I was like, no, I'll just go through on my own. But in
Hmm.
hindsight, I ended up paying more than that a couple years later for a school's certificate. So that would have been a better decision to go with that at the time.
Sure. Yeah. Well, at least you got the financial part of it done. I'm curious, how did you even know to go into or ask to be meritized? Like, did you see a
Mhm.
problem? Some of your students coming through and maybe dropping out because they couldn't afford it?
No, I mean we weren't even in business long enough at that time to have any kind of history or data like that. We were pretty new, especially with our career program, because we were starting out, and we were priced a little bit lower in the beginning to try to get traction going, and we had some people who were able to pay out of pocket for that. But really, it was very early on that we got on with Meritize, to start shifting from just doing single certificate, the $10,000 to $20,000 customers, to more towards the $100,000 price range. But yeah, it was very early on, and there weren't like issues necessarily. People weren't dropping out because of it, but I think it's more just they weren't enrolling in the first place because of it.
Sure. Man, that's really good, forward thinking. Very good to hear. Okay, so you said early on you had a couple of students, you got meritized, and when did you realize this was going to actually be a real business? Like it was going to grow?
Yeah, I would say around that 2022 time. So I resigned from Envoy in May of 2022, and I'll never forget I was at Davis Street Espresso in Dallas, a coffee shop with my friend Tidius, and he was there as moral support, and my hands were shaking sending this email to the chief pilot, that I was putting in my 2 weeks notice. So it was very nerve wracking, but it was because starting to see, I think that this business can actually support an income for me to go full time here and make it my full thing, and really try to give my all, give 100% to this business instead of it being a side project where I'm, going on 4-day trips every week and not able to really be there. Because even if you're an airline pilot and you're able to work on a business on trips, that's not the
Hmm.
same as being in the office and being present as the president of the company. So there's
Yeah,
definitely a difference.
very true. I think that's interesting. I think every entrepreneur, rem- like they really remember that time when they jumped off and were like, okay, I'm gonna leave this full-time position
Hmm.
and I'm gonna bank on it. Like I'm gonna bank on myself. So I think that's so interesting. Really, everybody I've talked to remembers that exact moment. I
Hmm.
do too. And and now when you look back, what do you feel about it? Like, do you feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I did it earlier, or I shouldn't have been nervous?
That's a good question. I don't know that it would have worked at any other time for me. Doing it earlier wouldn't have made sense. I'm glad that I did it when I did and didn't wait longer. But yeah, I'm very very glad that I did it. In hindsight, it's like you said, it's just betting on yourself, taking a chance on yourself. And part of my thinking was, I'm young. I was 20, I think 24 at the time, and
Wow.
my I was engaged. I wasn't married yet, but my fiance at the time was very supportive and has always been super supportive, which is a big deal if you've got somebody at home that's
It
not
is.
on the same page. That's going to be tough to do. So yeah, she was
Yep.
like, "Hey, I'll eat McDonald's and live in a shack, so go for it." And yeah, very very glad that I did.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so when you like, was there an immediate mind shift for you when you left Envoy and moved over into essentially your CEO, your president position? Like you knew you had to
Hmm.
do it all?
I wouldn't say there was something overnight, but over the years, there's definitely been a significant shift in the way that I view the business and approach it. But it's not something that I think happened overnight. Something that took a long time to really shift. And I'm even, learning so much now. I feel like every 6 months I have this huge breakthrough of learning how to lead the company in a bigger way, how to lead a company in a bigger way. And I think you find yourself at these different thresholds where you realize that you are limiting the company from growing, and so you have to change and grow and become a better leader and an entrepreneur, all those things, or else the company is going to stagnate otherwise. So.
I can resonate with that because I've definitely gotten, thought about it. I'm really slowing this company down because either
Mm,
I don't know how to move in the next direction or I
mhm.
am still stuck in my own ways. Do
Yeah.
you have any like real world examples, like specific examples of those types of things?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one thing too, to your point that I even ask myself sometimes that has become kind of a cornerstone for those times is what would Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or one of those, titans of industry, what would they do if they were leading this company right now instead of me? And that tends to help guide and bring things big picture. But um, specific places where I mean, early on, it was the practical things of like being reliable. I think was a big thing early on. Just doing things when I said I was going to do them, even if it wasn't something that I wanted to.
Hmm.
Just some natural maturing that has to happen. More lately, I would say leading people has been just a more recent one of leading people and leading team. And as a company grows, how do you also grow your culture and not allow something to just to lose your founding culture, as things grow and the team has doubled in size. And so how do you continue to, like a company like Southwest, really not only maintain but build and develop culture as you grow? I think that's one of the things I'm learning and navigating now of how to lead a company in that way.
Yep. It's so important and it's not easy and there's not like a black and white, here's how you do it. Like you could read 100 books and you really have to find what works best for your company, your culture. Yeah, that's a difficult piece.
Yeah,
Hats off
definitely.
to you for doing working on that part.
Yeah.
Do you work with like a team to work on your strategy? Is there a board of directors? Like who helps make some of those decisions?
Yeah, we've got a really awesome team in the this half of the office over here. We've got about 7 people who are working with me that are not actually in, they're not a flight instructor or mechanic or dispatcher. So we've got a really awesome team now that feels like we could grow quite a bit with the current team without really needing to add anybody. So
Okay.
that's a fun feeling. Everybody on the team is just really eager to be here and I think really loving what we're doing. So that's cool. On top of that, I've got a group of friends that all own businesses. So I don't know if you have that, if anybody listening has that, but that's been just such a lifeline for me. I've got 3 friends that own businesses and all live in the area, and we meet together once every week or two, and just hey, I've got a situation with an employee or this is happening, have you had that before? And just being able to share ideas and solutions that we've had is a game changer.
I love that. How did you find them? Were you friends with them beforehand, or did you have to kind of go to some business groups?
I've never had luck with any of the like unnatural ways of bringing people together for those things. These are just
Okay.
friends
Hmm.
that I've known one since I was in high school from a church group, and so I actually started this business at his dinner table with him and
Oh,
his wife who own their business together, and
cool.
so I was learning from them, and then one of our other friends joined. It's just been kind of a natural progression of our whole friend group owns businesses now, and so yeah,
Oh.
just a natural progression of everybody's gonna follow in their footsteps and have a business themselves.
Yeah, kind of like attracts like. You've got stuff to talk about. Yeah, the
Hmm.
conversation's good.
Hmm.
Okay, so I kind of want to talk more about, you know, how you talked about the 141 certification process. You would have preferred if you just bought it a while ago and been done with it. But
Hmm.
can you tell anybody who's listening, like even me, I do not really understand how the whole
Mm.
certification process goes. What is involved?
Sure, yeah. So 141 certificate is the air carrier certificate for a flight school. So you can have the Part 61 training, which is you could open a school tomorrow and it could be Part 61. Anyone can do that. But to be 141 certified, you have to go through a pretty extensive approval process with the FAA where they look at your training course outlines, your syllabi, your
Okay.
safety practices and procedures. You have to have certain qualifications for chief pilot and record keeping. There's a lot that's involved with it compared to a normal school. Even if a Part 61 school is doing all of that, unless
Hmm.
you're certified, you can't have that title, and it opens up doors. Is really the biggest thing. Like looking at it from a business perspective, does 141 really improve training? Maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, it opens up doors for the company and for your customers is a big part of that. So, like Sally Mae as a lender, you really can't work with them. There's one exception in the country that I'm aware of that is not 141. So there's things like that where you can open doors for your customers.
Sure. And I suppose they're probably searching, some of them may be looking for specifically 141.
Yeah, some of them definitely are to get international students to be able to work with bringing students in and issuing visas as well. There's things there, and then self-examining authority is a huge one. For the last few years, we've had a shortage of examiners in the industry, and so
Yeah.
self-examining authority is a big one. And there's a 141 modernization proposal actually right now that's open, that's been submitted to the FAA, and one of
Hmm.
the things on there is examining authority. There's things I like and don't like on the report, but the self examining authority is one thing that I think is good for the industry of increasing self examining authority for flight schools there.
Right. If they can't provide somebody who can do it for you, at least you're not stuck waiting for
Yeah,
months or longer.
yeah, definitely, and schools that show that they can manage that effectively themselves. So yeah, it's a very extensive thing to get the 141 certificate. It took us years to get it and ended up just buying one. But even that process, I had to go up to Oregon and become a chief out there, and then over time transfer it back to Texas, and it took quite a while.
Okay.
And then now we have it in Dallas and at our Fort Worth campus, both 141.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is a big, long process.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Okay, so What was the first airplane that you started having students training on? Like, what was the first one that you and your
Mm.
brother, like, did you buy it together? And what kind
Yeah.
was it?
Yeah, we got a Cessna 152. It was November 757 Hotel Tango. It's no longer flying, actually. We ended up selling it at an engine change, and it's used in a maintenance school now. But our simulator is labeled as 757 Hotel Tango, so it still lives on. So we started with a 152 and then another 152. So we had two of those, and then we
Okay.
switched to 172s, the 320 E2D engine range for anybody who knows what those are. So it's a specific year range of those aircraft where they would all be pretty similar. Because we realized, we don't want to have a mixed and matched fleet where we've got tons of different types of aircraft where every time a student gets into the plane, they're relearning it. So really went for a similar fleet there.
Mm-hmm.
And then over
Okay.
time, more recently, we've switched to brand new airplanes that we're adding into the fleet, which is called the Sling NGT. And super excited about those. And those are all brand new off the line from the manufacturer and 100% identical.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, tell me a little bit more because I'm not familiar with that aircraft. What are some of the highlights? Like, why did you choose that one?
Yeah, so the Sling is, I think, gonna be one of the dominant aircraft over the next couple decades.
Okay.
The light sport legislation that's come out has really changed the manufacturing landscape and the flight training landscape for viable airplanes.
Okay.
So you've got the 172s and the Archers and the Piper 100Is and the different airplanes that have been used for a while, but
Hmm.
now there's this new breed of aircraft that are viable to train in all of a sudden because the weight has increased and they can be flown in the clouds now, some things like that. So this airplane in particular is a two-seat, and it's a fuel injected, FADEC controlled Rotax engine. So
Hmm.
a lot of lingo for somebody who may not know, but just basically means it's not the same as the legacy aircraft. It's completely different. The engines weigh a lot less and they burn a lot less fuel. So that's really one of the big differences. So cost of goods sold come down for an operator, and
Yeah.
also cost of acquisition of the aircraft is significantly less because
Okay.
there's less red tape for them to get an aircraft approved by the FAA and all that. And
Yep.
then so these are the price point for these is a bit lower, but it's still at the same time from a customer's perspective, it's a brand new airplane with full glass panel and has all the same safety features and everything. So it's really the best of both worlds, and I think we'll see a lot of the industry shifting to this after July, which is when the fullness of that legislation takes place.
Okay. And so you said light sport aircraft.
Hmm.
Is that similar to, there's a license for a light sport aircraft, right?
Yeah.
Which is 40 hours versus the 60 hours? Am I?
There's a light sport license, which the normal private pilot is 40 hours, but the light sport's even less than that, and it has some restrictions. Yeah, so it's similar,
Okay.
but this is on the aircraft manufacturing and airworthiness side versus on the pilot side. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so even though you're training maybe on a light sport, you're still going for the actual private pilot because
Yes,
that's what they need.
exactly.
Because they're going to scale up to instrument and all that. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can totally use these for private instrument, commercial, CFI. You can use it for everything.
Got it. Okay. All right. Very cool. So, I mean, I can obviously see how you're looking to scale. Like, I can see you're talking about all these aircraft being the same. Are there any other things you were considering that would have been like really important to being able to grow your business?
Hmm. Yeah. So a big part of it is, I mean, with anything, when somebody buys something, you want a guarantee that you're going to get results. So that's a huge thing we're working on right now. We're about to announce a really big partnership, and I can tell you here because this won't be released until it's announced officially.
Okay,
So
cool.
we're announcing a partnership with Spitfire Elite, which is a consulting company, basically a headhunter for the airlines. So
Oh,
they're going to
cool.
be plugged into our program from the time somebody signs up. So they'll start as a baby pilot and work all the way up with this company who's going to be coaching them, doing resume review, interview coaching, all of those things from the time they start, so that by the time they're ready to actually interview with the airlines, they're gonna do a great job with that and get the job. So this company has a 95% placement rate at the airlines, which is just insane, especially in the current industry where it's been somewhat challenging for people to get those airline jobs. So that's something we're really excited about, of being able to have as much of a guarantee as possible that if somebody enrolls with us, they're going to find themselves in the right seat of an Embraer 175 or whatever it may be.
That sounds so cool. That okay, so I am throwing out this one is a little bit odd, only because I work mostly in the business aviation section.
Okay,
Do
yeah.
any of your people like, do you guys talk about the business aviation side, or
Hmm.
do any of the pilots coming to you? They're like, man, I just don't want to be an airline pilot, but I still want to fly. I want to go fly for, Home Depot
Hmm.
or who knows, Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I had somebody today, one of our instructors, Adam. I was talking to him because he's coming to this event with us that we're about to do with Spitfire, and
Hmm.
he was asking, do they do stuff with 135? Because he does not want to go to the 121 world. So we do have, and now I know that may be a little different even than what you're asking, but we do have people interested in 135, Part
Okay.
91, definitely. Yeah. I don't know. I would say probably about 30% of our students are at least very interested in that side.
Okay.
I think most people end up going 121 just because that's the most obvious. It's the most obvious of how to get there. So
Hmm.
that's something that I think student pilots and instructors could even use some education of what is it. What would I do if I wanted to work for a company like Coca-Cola as a pilot? How would I even start that process?
Yeah, that's so cool. 30%, that's great. That's higher than I thought. I
Hmm.
know we see a lot of people, like you said, go to the airlines, and so I'm in the dispatch side of it. Most people are heading towards the airline dispatch side of it as well.
Oh
And
yeah,
I was in the airlines in the beginning, and then I transitioned over to the private sector, and I love the private sector myself. So
yeah.
I just think that's cool that you're starting to get 135s on there. Definitely keep me posted if you ever need any contacts for
Okay.
people, because we have flight departments who are always looking for up and coming young pilots.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah,
does
yeah.
make sense to get some of those hours done at an airline.
Sure. Yeah, we've had a couple people, especially things at our airport here. There's a few pilots who went on and got a gig with a citation here. So there's been some people who've had opportunities like that. And one of our graduates, just his dad knew somebody and got him into a jet here as well. So we've had some, but we definitely, if you've got any contacts for that, I mean, we're not going to say no to that.
Great. All right. Yeah. I'll bring anybody over to the business side too. I like commercial though. We definitely have
Yeah.
to have that as well.
What airline did you work with?
This is going to age me a bit. So it's Masaba Airlines, which was
Okay.
purchased by Northwest, which was then purchased by Delta. So it was we
Okay.
worked with the Saab 340s.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
we did have the RJs towards the end. We got a couple of those, and that was kind of the new airplane. But yeah, it was a while ago.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was fun
Awesome.
though. I do not, I love the flight benefits. I will say for the
Hmm.
121 side, those are pretty awesome.
Yeah, gotta live on the points now without the flight
Yes,
benefits.
yeah. Try and find some cheap deals going on and
Mm.
book them. Okay, I want to kind of switch over to more on the culture side that you were talking about, and I want to talk about serving others first. How does that show up in your business?
Well, I would say that's a big part of why we even started the business to begin with. I mean, I was reflecting with my brother on our experiences at this large flight school that we both had experience with, and man, there's just so much left on the table for how they could take care of people. And so that was even just a big part of why we started the company at all and the founding there. But I mean, we even for our orientation, like we have one-on-one orientation instead of it being a huge group. Even though we're starting, a dozen or so people a month for the career program, but just that one-on-one attention, I think, is a big deal. Taking the time, like that's a lot more hours of work on our part instead of doing it all at the same time. But that way, it's that individual attention. We do cookouts every month, and just making a time and place for people to come and get to know each other, and so things like that is a big part of it. And I like something that I've read recently as I'm trying to learn and become a better leader in these things myself with Southwest, and how they put the company, the staff first, actually, even before the customer, in a way, because they knew that would translate to the customers if they're taking care of their staff to that level. So that's a big one that we're learning with our flight instructors, with our weekly meetings, of how can we pour into them. And so even there's weeks where we'll just cook them lunch during the CFI meeting, things like that, to help pour into them and give them energy for the week and feel served. So yeah, those are some of the things that we're doing over here, and then just the daily, the little things of asking people how they're doing, and knowing their name, and stopping and actually talking to them for 5 minutes instead of not having time for them.
Hmm. I love that one-on-one kind of onboarding piece.
Mm.
I do that as well, and that's really been a game changer.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and plus I get to know my people better. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love that. So do you most of your instructors, are they kind of they're building time so they may rotate out anyway? Like, not that
Hmm.
they don't like you, they're just rotating out because their ultimate goal is to be part of the airlines?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we know that it is a step along the way for most of them. There are some people who you find that are sort of unicorns that really do just love instructing, or maybe they're retired and this is going to be some kind of a retirement gig for them. But yeah, for the most part, I would say 95% of our instructors are using this as a stepping stone. So we may have them. I mean, most of them are graduates as well. So from the time they enroll to the time they leave, we'll have them for at least 2.5 years in our ecosystem here.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. When you're kind of talking with other people, and I say selling in quotations, but selling your company, what do you tell them in terms of why would they pick your company versus perhaps another one that's out there?
Yeah, I like that question. uh, well, we one of the biggest things that people have been really liking lately is telling them, you don't know what people like all the time, and then all of a sudden you find out that like nobody else is doing something like that. So we found out recently that our group grounds, we do unlimited group ground,
Okay.
and we didn't realize that most schools have such a tight limit on the amount of ground that they do. But
Okay.
because of the volume of students that we have now, we're able to do just weekly. We have multiple weekly group grounds that are always running; they never stop, and we are encouraging all of our students to come to those. So there's an unlimited amount of ground that these students can get, and some of them definitely take advantage of that more than others. But the
Mm-hmm.
students who are there the most tend to be the most successful students, as you would
Sure.
expect. So that's a big differentiator, I would say. The
Okay.
culture is a big thing too. Like, there's not a lot of schools where everybody is like, literally everybody's going to know your name, but at the same time has some of that operational excellence of getting you through in a very, very efficient amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be some of the really big things, I would say. And I don't I don't think there's going to be another school that's more invested in the outcome. Like, we're not just trying to get students in the door so that we can take their money. Our goal is to get them to the jet. And so even, Caitlin on our team, who I think your team spoke to, she set this up.
Yeah.
Her role is customer success. So her whole role is just to get them to where they're trying to go. So we're really, really invested in the outcome for the students.
That's cool. I want to hear more about the unlimited ground. So,
Hmm.
are you basically saying you have these ground schools and they're going through different modules per se continuously? And if a student is like, hey, I need some little extra help on this weight and balance, maybe section or cross country
Mm-hmm.
navigation, they just pop in and
Uh-huh.
maybe take another class?
Yeah, so we do have a curriculum that's being cycled through, but we have open time where they can ask any questions they want to as well. So yeah, if they come, there may be a topic that they've already gone over before, and that's fine, but they know there's going to be time that they can bring any of those questions as well. And generally, the instructor too will gauge the room on what people are actually working on at the time, and it is by certificate as well. So we're not
Okay.
mixing like private and instrument. So for the private ground that's happening, they may come and they may say two people want to work on nav logs and one person wants to work on weather and so forth, and so they can kind of attack those things and then have time for questions. And it's such a good way to do it because it's people at all different phases of their training, and so then we even get a lot of student teaching too, which is a big thing that we're cultivating, especially with our CFI school, because we always have a CFI school running as well. So a lot of times actually the instructor's sitting in the corner and the CFI applicants are the ones running the class. And
Okay.
so you have people from it could be their first week all the way through their last week of training who are engaged. And even just, I don't know, for people that have an education background, some of the most effective education models are the student led, where the teacher's not even in the room and the students are teaching each other. So it's really effective teaching model that we're using with those group grounds.
Totally. Yeah. Hands on. Learn it before you are dropped in, a class. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. I love it. Do you have any? This is a totally a side note because I'm on the dispatch side, but do you guys have any dispatchers who go, maybe they're going through and maybe they just really like all of the, I don't know, the logistics kind of piece of it and they decide not to fly and they just maybe do an ATP or a dispatch license?
We have two dispatchers right now, and we're probably going to be adding one for Fort Worth soon. But we have all of them are student pilots is something that's really worked well for us because they know all of the lingo. They know they have the industry knowledge. They're able to audit a logbook or different things that may need to happen. So that's worked well for us. Taylor is our chief dispatcher, and she's started with us as a student and is still progressing through her ratings, but she's also working full time for us. So that's great. Yeah, that's what we've done. But even in her case and all the dispatchers' cases, they are still moving towards the airlines.
Okay.
I don't even know much. I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about the different opportunities that are out there for dispatch and some of those types of roles.
Sure. Well, we really run the gamut here, like, 135, 91. So I have 17 dispatchers on staff,
Okay.
and each one of them does something different. So, and some of them, I would say probably some of the best ones are the ones who also fly, who have at least gotten their private pilot license or even further.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Oftentimes they do know all those technical words and they can really speak to the pilots uh, real effectively that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Kind of curious about maybe what you thought your life or running a flight dispart or flight school would look like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I'll say 2022, like when you first
Mm-hmm.
made that um, decision in the coffee shop versus today. Anything that's like way different than you thought? Maybe way better or way worse?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I'll definitely say is it's nice to be out of the. I'm sure anybody who's ever owned a company knows the up and downs of early days, and cash flow is a very stressful life for a period of time. So it's very nice to kind of, at least to an extent, feel beyond some of that turbulence there. So yeah, I mean, back then, looking at the big schools and seeing these people that had built schools that I looked up to, that was like, oh my goodness, how could you ever build a flight school that big? And I remember when we did our first $100,000 month, was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then now kind of turning around and realizing like, wow, we're actually starting to compete with some of these schools that seem so far ahead of us
Yeah.
in a pretty serious way. And really figuring out our data and things like that, where that was not a strong suit of mine 5 years ago, of knowing any kind of, I don't have any college education or anything like that, so I didn't know what customer acquisition cost, or a lot of, I didn't know what COGS was, any of
Yeah.
those things. So really had to learn on the fly. And now dialing a lot of those things in, getting really good with our data. And I think there's a resetting of your vision that you have to do every couple years as you achieve what you dream. Like, oh my goodness, we achieved the biggest I thought we could grow, and now I have to reset what I'm dreaming about. So yeah, that's been super fun. And so yeah, resetting that now, even of, you almost have to like learn to set your goals that big again, if that makes sense.
So for me, it really does. And probably any entrepreneur out there, I think that would resonate with them. Like I have been in the same spot. Like, oh my gosh, I've gotten to this goal and I never thought I would get to this goal. This was my biggest goal in my mind I could even think of. And now I'm here. So now what's my next one? What is my next big giant goal? It's really kind of super cool actually, because you'll get through a couple of those uh, levels, I guess, and you just get to get loftier and loftier with those goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said another thing that was really cool is that you don't have a degree for this, and I don't either. I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't. So I would say there's probably a whole bunch of determination. And I bet you if you look at most companies, at least in the beginning, they do well because of the determination of that very first person there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, I really resonate with what you're saying because I didn't know COGS. I didn't know, why do I care really about the data and how much certain reports were showing me. And now I have all of those reports and it makes me able to make those larger goals. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, and a lot of the like even circling that back to the 141, like achieving some of those different goals that you have kind of makes you become, it's not even about that thing that you achieved, it's about the company and the leader that it made you become by achieving that. And by getting the 141, or like one of the things we've been doing lately is going through a gap audit over the last 3 years of financials. Never been through a financial audit or anything before, but to work with Sally Mae, we have to. And
Okay.
so, that's been a huge learning curve, but it's caused us to really just take our books to the next level and become a much more professional company in that way. And so it's not even the fact that like we have audited financials. It's about how we had to grow our company and our processes to achieve that. I think is a big deal for what it says about the company.
Huge. No, very huge. So how do you guys work on like pricing and margins? I mean, you originally you said that you tried to go a little bit cheaper, like in the industry, so people would come your way. And now I'm sure you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What's your goal there? Like, are you trying to, I don't know, it seems like you provide, just above and beyond
Mm-hmm.
what they're probably paying for. Any tips on that side?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I mean, there's a couple things involved there. One, I think, is providing the most value possible for the dollar that the customer is spending. And if you're providing, a way more, if you're providing 20 cents more value per dollar when somebody goes with you versus someone else, it's pretty easy to compete there. So that's
Yeah.
something that we're definitely doing, like big time. Like we've got a medical examiner moving into our office. We've got our testing center set up so they can take their tests here. Like there's so many things we've brought in house, and like I said, the group grounds. There's a lot of things where we're just like constantly looking Spitfire Elite, that partnership. How can we
Yeah.
just really, really constantly be sewing into the value? And then on the other side of it, with pricing, I mean, I'd never heard of price testing. I had no grid for that. And so it was actually really funny recently. We did raise our price a little bit recently. And then the next day, someone came in and they're like, oh my goodness, you guys are so cheap. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like so nervous to raise the price to that point. And then you come in and that's your perspective on it still. So yeah, that's been something that's been interesting, and I think if anybody is in business, at some point you're going to have to really learn the lead gen side and the sales side of the ratio between your customer acquisition cost and your lifetime gross profit per customer. I mean, is if that ratio is not healthy, then you don't have a happy engine there. And so dialing that in and that's the responsibility of any CEO is to make a profitable company, or else everybody at the company is at risk of losing their job. So out of responsibility to your staff and customers of making sure that your company's profitable, and if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job. So there needs to be a really healthy ratio there, and that's just like a super basic level. Yeah, I guess I forget what even the question was.
Yeah, we were just talking about pricing in general because that can be, I mean, pricing's a tricky thing. You
Mm,
want the clients, but you need to get paid and you need to have that margin so you can pay everybody. And you're right, that's your job as a CEO.
mhm,
That's you don't want to fold. You don't want to go the business to go under. Of course,
mhm.
then all of those people are out of a job.
Right.
It's a hefty responsibility also.
Yeah, yeah, it could be a weight on the shoulders at times where there's people whose food on their table is relying on you being effective at your job. But I think that's part of why there's so much reward with being willing to take on some of that risk.
So let's talk about what if you were talking directly to somebody who's interested in creating a company in aviation or maybe out of aviation. Any advice you might give to somebody like that?
Hmm. Wow. There's so many pieces of advice I would want to give them. Hmm. Okay, yeah. The main. If I can only tell them one thing, I think I would say you need to become obsessed with removing the primary constraint of the company. It's very, very easy to get distracted with busy work, especially when you have staff and customers and people around in an office. It is so easy to get distracted of people needing things. So, not that you don't care about those things, but you've got to just move everything off the table, even if you can just lock yourself into a room for 4 hours a day and address those things, or whatever it looks like. But I think people can forget. There's a temptation to forget that as the founder, like initially you're wearing a lot of hats, and then eventually you start removing yourself and delegating things. But I think there's a temptation to forget that through that process, you've probably become the most valuable producer at the company in a lot of ways. And like, yeah, I'm not going to be the most productive accountant here, but in certain capacities, that's the case where to get to that level, you've had to really grow and develop yourself in a lot of skills and sales and different things. So yeah, I think just making sure that you as the CEO are continuing to have output and addressing that highest constraint of, you know, if this happened, it would have the biggest impact on the business, and that should
Yeah.
be probably the only thing you focus on until that thing has changed.
Yep. Really good point. Very good point. I think you're right. It happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. They ended up bottlenecking the company because everything has to go through them
Mm.
because they're the only one who knows how to do it or they're the best at it or something. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then there's still this temptation though of like, because you don't want to be a bottleneck of just delegating everything and then just being like a manager who's just not really producing anything at the same time. So I think there's a both and with it of you need to not be the bottleneck but also still producing in whatever that capacity is.
I gave up the actual scheduling piece of what I do about 2 years ago.
Okay.
But it took me a long time to get up that because I like that part of the job.
Hmm.
That's what the company was created on, and I did it because I always loved it. So that was a hard transition out for me, but I was so bottlenecking the company by doing it that way. It was
Wow.
dumb. So really
Wow.
good.
So what does your role look like more now with the company?
Yeah, now I do. I go for those fires, perhaps you might call them, of
Mm.
what do I need to tackle so that everybody else can do their job easier and nobody else is going to not have the resources that they need.
Mm.
So sometimes that is hiring, sometimes it's recruiting, and sometimes it's sales. Those are my main pieces now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
those are huge.
yeah, I enjoy this part too. I just,
Hmm.
it took me a long time to let go of that scheduling, dispatching side of it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Wow.
Okay, I would like to talk about what you think the future is going to look like. You talked about the aircraft
Mm.
and how that you think is going to be one of the new up and coming airplanes that people are going to use. What other things do you think might change in flight training in general?
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So the aircraft, I think, will change. There's definitely a push for more technology and AI right now. There's some cool things that have been happening. I don't think they're necessarily transformative, but there's some cool value adds that are happening because of that with like AI debriefs and whatnot.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't I mean some people it sounds like they think it's going to completely transform the industry. I don't think it's going to. I really think it's just going to be a nice perk or a nice value add for the
Okay.
students. But where do I see it going? I mean, it's very interesting to see what's going to happen with technology and with pilots and people talk about the replacement of the pilot one day, but we've got some unions who are very protective over the pilots and customers who are very used to having a human in the cockpit. So I think even with some of these drone and different types of operations, initially we may see an increase in demand for pilots because I think a lot of these products will be piloted at least at first. And you probably have better pulse on this than I do, but it seems like initially at the very least there will probably be a continued increase in demand over the next handful of years as some of those different kinds of products come out.
Yep.
So yeah, curious to see what that does to the flight training industry. We've seemed to kind of have stabilized now, so we'll see what would happen if the demand started pulling again on the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. The AI, we use some AI products, and I think the whole creation of a dispatch package, again, I'm on the dispatch side, but creating of that package.
Hmm.
But you still have to have somebody who's like, are we sure what our data is what AI is collecting is correct? Does it look
Hmm.
right? Does it really pertain to what we're talking about? So, yeah,
Hmm.
I think it'll be helpful. It's not going to replace us
Yeah,
fully.
yeah, and I mean, I think it's gonna improve the efficiency definitely of every company out there, depending on how much they take advantage of it. This may not directly impact the customer so much, but we've completely rebuilt a lot of our software with the AI in house through this just this a stack that a couple of us have been developing on. So like
Okay.
our website, our CRM has been completely rebuilt, and it's like we were using Monday.com before, and this is just like so exponentially better than what we had before. It's really cool. So things like that may not be flight training or aviation specific, but for people out there that are thinking about how AI is going to impact the business, that's one use case we've seen that's been really really cool. Improved our efficiency a lot in the sales funnel process, especially.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Use any of those tools to, like you said, make yourselves more efficient. Then you can really tackle some of those other, crazy problems or opportunities that might come up, like a new location or something. If you want to do a new location, how many locations do you have now? The two?
Yeah, we have two. So we're in Dallas. Dallas Executive Airport is our primary, and then Fort Worth at the Hicks Airfield is our
Okay.
satellite campus. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, for our listeners out there, even either the aviation ones or entrepreneur ones, what's one more piece of advice, story, note that you want to leave us with?
Hmm. I'll just go with what's on my mind. I saw a Twitter an X post about how CEOs need to delegate and it was basically about like not having to work as much as a CEO. And I just while I think that there's some merit to that, and like very practically, like you were saying, you delegated scheduling and you needed to because there's other things that you need to handle, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not abdicating your role in the company by doing that. And so I think if you look at some of the most successful companies out there, like I'll use the same examples as before, Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, like they're so involved and excited about their company. Just an encouragement, I guess, if you're not, just to take a step back and remember why you started and to catch your own vision again for why you're excited about it. And it's a really cool lifestyle to be able to be in business, and might as well have fun doing it and be really invested in what you're doing. So
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think a lot of times people are looking at businesses and they're like, oh man, overnight, they were an overnight success. That I think is the
Mm,
silliest thing ever because most of those people worked ton of hours and they probably still do. It's not like now they're just sitting
right.
on the couch drinking margaritas all day. Like they're
Mm,
still in there. And I mean, my phone turns on early in the morning and it doesn't go off until
yeah.
night. I may not be scheduling, but there's
Hmm.
definitely stuff that's going on.
Totally. If your goal is to not work as much, that's probably not what you should be doing.
Yes, definitely just work for somebody else that has a start time and an end time.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, totally. Awesome. Well, Jack, it was really great conversation. I super
Yeah.
appreciate you talking with me, sharing your story, letting us know what it looks like behind the scenes to build and scale that flight training operation like you did. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Super lots of value in that too. I hope that there's some entrepreneurs listening and that they're listening to your advice and going to apply it at home. I love the leadership that you talked about, how you really know people's names and you're there and you're talking to people. The barbecues sound like so much fun. So I really think a lot of people who are listening, they're going to take something away from this. So whether they're in flight training or running a flight department or maybe just being an entrepreneur. So for everyone listening, I'll just add my last piece in here. If you found value in this episode, the best thing you really can do for me is to share it with somebody in your network. Whether that's a colleague or a pilot, maybe someone who is looking to get into aviation, because these conversations are how we really continue to grow and strengthen the industry. And if you are a flight department looking for additional support, whether that's scheduling, dispatch, or international trip planning, LDA is always here to help you as an extension of your team. And of course, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. We've got more great conversations lined up with leaders across business aviation. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of the LDA podcast.